I'm here interviewing Nancy Carlson about the topic of domestic abuse. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. To start off, what sort of connection do you have to the issue of domestic abuse, if any?
Um, well, let's see. I actually grew up in a pretty relatively normal household, so I didn't really have any experience with that, with domestic abuse to that extent, until I dated this man who was 16 years older than myself. And that's when I first realized and understood what abuse was all about.
And would you be willing to elaborate on that a little?
Sure. Do you want me to just talk about it?
Yeah, if you want to, if you're comfortable with that.
Okay. Um, this is a man that I dated for 3 years, and he was 16 years older than myself, which probably didn't help. But at the time, I was living away from home and in Boston, and which is where he lived and grew up and had been there for some time. So I had some friends there, but I was pretty much alone because my family lived in Maine. And he slowly but consistently made me realize or feel as though I wasn't worthy of myself. And basically, I lost a lot of my good friends because of his mental abuse. So he would say things like, "I don't need my friends because I have him. Your friends won't understand who you are now because you're with me. Your family really, they don't understand either. So, the further you stay away from everybody, the better off that you will be."
So he pretty much separated you from everybody that you cared about.
Yes.
But you
And
didn't.
really tried.
And when did you realize that this was what he was doing?
When I would be alone on the weekends, or when I wouldn't be home for a holiday because I was with him, because he insisted that, we be together on a holiday versus going to my family's house. And I was just convinced. The more you hear something over and over and over, the more you become convinced or brainwashed, which is a better word, brainwashed, which I think could be equated to, mental abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Because he never hurt me, that's for sure, but mentally he stripped me of who I was.
And what happened when you tried to get out of the relationship?
Um, he, well, when I broke it off with him, which was after 3 years, right, and we were engaged to be married, I realized that this was just not for me. He convinced me that I didn't want children. He convinced me that, so many things. And then I just realized, I guess I snapped out of it one day. I don't know. I was alone. I was very lonely, even though I was with somebody that supposedly loved me, but he loved me for how he molded me, not necessarily.
Sorry, keep going.
So he molded me into the person he wanted me to be, not necessarily the person who I was. And I
Okay.
became his puppet. So when I broke it off with him, he continued to stalk me. He would hide behind bushes. He would sneak around. He would send me little notes here and there saying, "I know where you are and what you're doing." He was just, it was scary, frankly.
That sounds scary. Do you think that this issue is relevant in society? And, do you think it's something that people are willing to talk about or not really?
Hannah, you want to put it on hold for? Oh, I think it's a very relevant issue. I think mental abuse is as strong and debilitating as physical abuse at times. Because, they're both extremely difficult and very hard, a very
Do you
hard
think
thing.
it still goes on, though, in society? Do you think now that it's more talked about than it was back then, it still, exists, sort of thing?
No, yeah, I think people are more aware of abuse, of mental abuse. Look at women that are convinced to stay with a man for whatever reason. however they may do it. It could be mental or physical, but people tend to talk about that even more, I think, today. I think we're just in a much more open society, and you're not looked down upon about it. And I think people are more comfortable expressing their feelings because it's more acceptable in our society than it was.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think the media has any effect on what we perceive as okay in relationships?
Yeah, I think the media expects relationships to be in a certain way, and if not, they may have an opinion about that. But I do think the media also has become much more acceptable of relationships and different types of relationships, whether it's gay or whatever.
Do you think would you say the abuser is usually a female or a male or either? Like, do you think it's more one-sided?
No, I think it could go either way. I think that I don't know if you want to use this, but I think that Grampy was mentally abused by Nana all the time, all the time.
Like,
So,
but would you say that would you say that mental abuse is more geared towards like female attacking a male? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, would you say, like, in your opinion, do you think like physical abuse is more the man on the woman, and the mental is more the woman on the man, sort of thing?
No, I would not say that. No.
Okay, so you think it
I
goes both ways?
I do think it would go both ways, and I think yes, especially in today's world, the women are so much stronger in personalities than I think they were back then, or at least I shouldn't say that. Women have always been strong, but I think it's been acceptable for women to be stronger, and therefore, they tend to now voice their opinions and have opinions and want to be heard. So I think in that respect, I think they can be abusive to men. I think back when I was growing up, it was kind of a man's world. Men worked and made money, and and as I started to work in the workplace, I realized that women really were strong, and I made something out of it. But I think I don't know. I think it's changing. I think abuse has always been there. I think now it's just been. I think people talk about it more.
Yeah,
That's what
I agree. Have you ever gotten one of your friends out of an abusive relationship?
No, but I'd like to. I have one of my best friends is in an abusive relationship, and I can't seem to get her out of it.
What's happening with that? Like, what exactly is happening in the relationship that's making it that way?
Same. Really, it's reliving what I went through. She's in a mental abusive relationship. He's extremely domineering, extremely jealous. Jealousy, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up. Jed was very jealous of all of my friends and who I had and everything. And that was another motive for him to just kind of continue to convince me that I didn't need anybody but him. And they keep saying it over and over. And this is what my friend's live-in boyfriend is doing to her. And basically, we don't speak now because he doesn't care for me because I'm her best friend. And he's told her that she doesn't need me, that she's perfectly content with him. And she's not. I've heard that she's not. So it's really sad.
That is sad.
So, yeah. So it's 2014, and this is what's happening, with someone that's 40 years old almost. No, older than 40. Wait, excuse me. She's almost 50.
Do you have any idea of, have you ever heard of this happening in the young adult world? Like, teenage relationships, high school relationships, college relationships? Would you say it's more geared towards older couples or younger couples, or?
No, I don't think. I think teenagers. That's a little different. I don't think that you can do that because I really think everyone's so immature at that point. They haven't really developed who they are, what they're doing. So, but I do think. I think boyfriends can be and girlfriends can be extremely jealous of their significant others, their boyfriends or girlfriends, and therefore, in being jealous, it creates an abusive environment. Jealousy is abuse.
It's true.
It really is. So I think it can be at any age level. It really can be at any age level. I don't think it's as much as you get older, maybe at my age and older, but definitely I think it's probably more so very, very vigilant in the 20 to 30-year-old generation until in between trying to get out and make it on your own and before you get married and have a family.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Nancy. It was great talking to you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.